Hello everybody! Today I wanted to do a little shop project. It's just a simple box, but boxes are, in my opinion, very important, and I wanted to show you how I built the box. Unfortunately, when I started the project, I didn't record the beginning, so this is a reenactment, but basically I just took a pallet and I dismantled it to get the boards. I find dismantling pallets very therapeutic and meditative, which is maybe weird. Then I took the boards that I got and I glued them together. I'm faking it here, but I just put the glue on the edges and clamped them together to get a, bigger panel. And through the magic of editing, this is the actual panel that I really glued. Here is what I will actually use the box for. I want to put this plastic beer case into my wooden beer case, because these plastic cases are pretty ugly and I want to cover it up. So now I have to cut the panel to smaller individual pieces, and I'm gonna use my table saw for that. And here you can also see my crappy overhead dust collection system. I should definitely build a new one at some point. Now that I cut the side panels, I can test fit them with the plastic case. I put this small piece of wood as a shim between them to just leave some clearance, because I might get a case that's a little bit bigger, later. So I don't know, it's better to be safe than sorry. Everything seems fine, but they are a little bit too tall, so I just trimmed their height a little bit to make them, perfect. Isn't it exciting? Alright, but here is the actual exciting part. So I wanted to put a logo on the sides of this beer case, right? Something kind of retro. So I designed the Our Slice of Life logo in a retro way. You can see that I changed the font. And then I began writing some texts around the logo, mostly stuff I saw on the other old boxes. So they would write stuff like, trademark and crafted by this and this brewing company or something. So I imagined like, this beer is made by Slice of Life Brewing Company. And I put the number 42, usually they have some random numbers all around, and of course it was just a perfect opportunity to do a little homage to the meaning of life, number 42. If you know what I'm talking about, let me know in the comments and boost my YouTube algorithm, thank you. And lastly, I just turned the whole design into vectors, and then it was ready for the laser cutting. Before I could start the cutting, I had to tape over the whole wooden panel. I placed the wooden panel into my FLUX Beambox Pro laser cutter. There's this very helpful feature where the laser cutter scans the whole bed area, right? And you can precisely see where your material is, and you can then place the design exactly where you want to. And then I pressed go and it started cutting. And here it only had to cut very shallow lines, basically only through the tape, right? So I could really crank up the speed, and this is how it's working in real time, so it's very fast. I mean, the whole design was finished in just, a minute or two, I don't know, very, very fast. And while it was very enjoyable to watch the laser cutter do that part of the work, now it was time for me to manually peel off each letter that I wanted to paint. And that there's just no way around it, you gotta do it manually, so letter by letter, you gotta find your zen space, right? I don't know, it's not the most interesting thing in the world, I'll tell you that. And don't forget that the beer case has two matching sides, right? So I had to do everything twice. So here is another shot of the laser cutter cutting out the whole design again, and then I had to peel off all the letters again. But then finally, it was time for painting. I'm using this cheapo airbrush from eBay that I bought for like 15 bucks. And it's working really good. I mean, once I bought the professional one. What's the name of the company? Iwata, right? So Iwata is like the biggest name in the world of airbrushes, and that's probably like $300. And honestly, it's not that much better, right? You can get a little bit more precise with Iwata airbrush, but if you're not doing something extremely small and precise, just buy it on eBay. It's okay. That's all I have to say about airbrushes. So I painted all the black parts, and now I need to paint the red square that goes behind the letters. Now, since I already peeled off the letters, I cannot protect them anymore. I can't put, the tape back on the letters. So I just peeled off the tape around the letters, and I'm gonna spray the red color over all of it. It does make the black color a little bit brownish. It's not as black as before, but I'm gonna age the box later and everything, so it won't matter at all. So I just didn't worry about it. And that's all the colors I had to spray paint, and now it's time to peel the rest of the tape. It's the most fun part of this whole box build. Then I put them side to side, and I was very pleased with them. They looked really good. But unfortunately, I had two other sides to do as well. There are these two other sides, the bigger sides of the box, and that's where they usually put the name of the beer. So I was thinking, how am I gonna name my imaginary beer? And I thought about the term brewski. If I'm not mistaken, that's how jocks in college in America call beer. At least I think I saw it in movies or something. So I wasn't sure about it, and it sounded kind of funny to me. So I asked my two friends from the USA, is it a good name for a beer? And one said, oh yes, it's a fantastic name for a beer. It's funny. And the other one said, whatever you do, don't name your beer like that. So I was confused, but I just used brewski anyway. So, that's another opportunity for you to type something in the comments. Is it a good name for a beer or is it not? Please let me know in the comments. And of course I had to go through everything again, first taping the whole wooden panel, then laser cutting, then peeling off the letters and painting it, it's just completely the same process. And thank God I had this amazing story about the name of the beer, because otherwise I wouldn't know what to talk about over these shots that are basically showing you the same thing all over again. But you gotta understand, it's in my interest to use all the shots that I filmed. Then the video is longer and it seems better. Alright, here's something new finally. I wanted to age these painted parts a little bit, so I took some sandpaper and lightly scuffed over them, and sandpaper only sanded the extruded parts, and that way I got the aged look. The edges that I cut on my table saw are also very nicely cut, and I wanted them to look old as well. So I used a wire brush and damaged them a little bit. I also hit them with the hammer. There's also a very common technique to use a screw and then, push it in with the hammer. These are all just common tricks for aging stuff. And now it was time to finally assemble it. I pre-drilled some holes, because if you would use a nail that close to the edge, it would probably split the board. I applied some glue to the edges, and I screwed the sides together. Now I know what you're all thinking right now, but Luca, these screws are not historically accurate. Yes, I couldn't agree more, they are not. But you will see why I use them in just a little bit. But first, this is the bottom part of the box. It's just a couple more boards glued together. I trimmed them to size on my table saw, and I glue it to the rest of the box with more historically inaccurate screws. Most of these boards that come from pallets are crooked, so I had to clamp them together and force them into position. Here's a cool trick that I learned from other YouTube woodworkers. If you have a glue squeeze out in the corner like this, just take a plastic straw, cut it at a slight angle, and it's a perfect tool for collecting glue. That's a smart idea, isn't it? Okay, so while this was drying, I took the nails that I pulled out from the pallet, and I began straightening them one by one, because I'm gonna use them on the box, because they are historically accurate. So now, when the box is fully dried, I remove the clamps, and I begin removing the screws as well. So you see, I just use them temporarily to hold things, because it's much easier to screw something than to use a nail and a hammer. If I would hammer this, everything would just move around and it would be a nightmare. So I devised this technique when I just use screws, and later when it dries, I pull the screws out and then I use a nail. So I think it's a smart idea. But if you disagree, let me know in the comments, because I'm very interested to hear your opinion. Okay, so this is the part where, you can easily destroy the whole work you did. The whole box looked too new, so I had to age it. So I used some powder that is actually a dye, and you mix it with warm water, and then you brush it over the wood. Then the wood becomes a different color. And once it dried, it looked a little bit too orange for my taste. So I did some more tests on a spare piece of wood, and this upper part is the orange color, and this is with another layer of darker dye. And I liked that look, so I decided to paint one more layer over the whole box. And this definitely did darken the color of the wood, but unfortunately it also darkened my logos as well. Now they are a little bit too dark, but it's fine, it's fine. All that was left was to attach 4 wheels on each corner. No, 1 wheel on each corner. That's 4 wheels all together, and I chose these red wheels because they are super cute and I think they go well together with red logos. Unfortunately, the logos are not red anymore, they're brown. And that's it, that's the end of the video. Here are a couple final images of the box, and I hope the next time you're, for example, walking down the street and you see a poor neglected box, you'll stop for a second and think about it. Who made this box? Why did they make it? What are the stories this box could tell us? And if you have a special box in your life, then please leave a comment and tell us all about it. Thank you. Bye bye.